In today's video, we're going to be reviewing Golestan by Andy Tower. It's his new floral fragrance release, which caught my eye because the bottle is stunning. Beautiful bottle. I'll read you a little bit about it from the website. Inspiration. It all started when I visited the Louvre in Paris in 2020. There I stumbled over a section that I have never visited before, although I was in the Louvre a couple of times. This section was all about Persian empires and history. A revelation. I was mesmerised by the grandeur, by the statues and the cultural heritage. Spanning more than 5,000 years. I began to discover more, reading books, and I ended up discovering the palace with the name of Golestan. The palace, also known as the Rose Garden Palace, built in the 16th century, with its ornamental and figurative paintings on tiles, was pure inspiration. Golestan literally translates to the city of flowers or garden of flowers. Although I could not travel to Iran so far, I created a perfume that brings me there. It is an invitation to breathe the perfumed air of a floral garden in freedom. The notes for this one are ylang ylang, bergamot, lemon zest and orange blossom, with tuberose, jasmine, rose, ambergris, vanilla, woody notes, patchouli and rock rose. When I first applied this one, the first floral that I kind of thought I got a vibe of was a little bit more of the ylang ylang. You get that kind of slightly more, ylang ylang has this beautiful, it's almost a tropical-like sweetness, I would say, but it has a beautiful kind of sweet, kind of thick kind of texture to it, kind of more of a thicker petal. Very pretty, and I get a little bit of that in the top notes. It's got this lovely, more fresh, slightly sweet floral opening, which is like I say, in the opening I get a little bit of the kind of ylang ylang kind of vibe, which I like. Ylang ylang is a gorgeous floral. I don't get too much of the citrus, maybe a little bit. It does have a little bit of a fresh quality, but I definitely don't get kind of lemon zest like the note list says. That doesn't come off on the paper or on my skin, but it does have, like I say, a little bit of a fresh quality to the opening with the floral. Although I don't get the lemon zest, there is a subtle something slightly fruity, which I'm presuming is, I guess, probably the bergamot. You do get a slight juicy quality, a little bit fruity in the background behind this kind of big kind of floral accord, I would say. As it kind of dries down more though, I think the main floral that comes through in this to me is tuberose, probably with jasmine, but it's more the kind of white floral direction more so than the rose that's listed. I think it comes more of a white floral on my skin, even on the paper. And in places it is slightly funky, just a little bit of indole. It's not too much, but I get a little bit of it, more so on skin. I think the orange blossom that's listed does give it a slight fresh or slightly soapy quality, a little bit kind of clean floral, with that kind of soapy nuance, especially on the tester strip. You could almost imagine a very beautiful kind of bar of floral soap. It does have a little bit of that quality. I think probably the orange blossom is definitely contributing to that. One phrase that I wrote on my kind of note list for this as I was wearing it for my review, there was a point in the fragrance that lasted quite a while as it dried down, a few hours in, that reminded me or gave me the impression of, imagine like flowers on the ground, you've got tuberose and jasmine, maybe a little bit of a rose and ylang ylang, but like more the white floral, really the tuberose definitely. So you got this big kind of body of floral, and it's lightly drizzled in fermented honey. That I got this kind of unusual hint of a sweetness which reminded me, and it was specifically fermented. Another thing that I wrote down was like lager, like alcoholic lager. It's got this kind of hoppy fermented boozy like lager kind of thing that reminds me of, like I said, like hops or something fermented. So, and it also had a little bit of a sparkle or a fizzy quality, which I think also my mind went to lager. I don't know whether it's just me because I'd not heard anyone else mention that. But I got like, imagine lager, like an alcoholic lager that's like mixed with honey a little bit and then lightly like sprayed on top of the florals. So you get this white floral drizzled ever so slightly with a little bit of fermenting kind of lager and honey. That's the vibe that I get. It's kind of hoppy in the middle. I don't know where that comes from. But I definitely distinctly got this slightly boozy kind of vibe coming from this as it dried down. And that's kind of where my mind went when I was trying to think of how it kind of came across to me personally. I would say that the ambergris and vanilla combination in this gives it this kind of ethereal kind of bubble, kind of wrapped around it, almost this musky kind of quality as it dries down. It is slightly sweetened as it dries, and I think the ambergris, or I'm presuming there's other things in there, not just ambergris, but like a musky kind of ambergris accord combination, sweetened a little bit with vanilla. That really kind of envelopes it as it dries down, and that kind of what I described as like almost honey infused lager over the florals kind of just goes into the kind of the base there. It does get maybe a hint of woodiness as it dries down. There's something a little bit more darker or deeper to it in the base, but I never really got patchouli in this. I didn't feel that the patchouli came out on my skin or on the paper. The woody notes, I would say, are more on the light side. It doesn't smell like sandalwood. I don't know whether they're more like synthetic woods, but like I say, you don't get sandalwood, you don't get specifically a darker kind of wood, but it does get what you might generally describe as a little bit woody in the dry down without being like a specific kind of wood, if that makes sense. With this kind of coating of ambergris and just a hint of vanilla. It's not overly sweet, just kind of a hint of it. On the paper, the bergamot note in the top does come out more on the paper, more noticeable than it did on my skin. It smells a little bit more juicy and fresh off the paper. On my skin, that really just disappears and it doesn't come out much and goes more into the kind of the floral thing for me. In my notes here, this is one of the ones that I gave to my mother to test as well, because she likes smelling stuff now and again. And the notes that I wrote for my mum smelling this, the bergamot was more pronounced on her skin than on mine. It smelled way more fruity and juicy on her in the opening than it did on my skin. So there was definitely a discrepancy in how it came across on different skins. On my skin, it just disappeared and I didn't get really the citrus in the top notes. It went more into the floral. On my mum's, it was like noticeably you get the kind of more juicy bergamot. So this is definitely skin chemistry dependent, and I find some fragrances are vastly different on skin, so bear that in mind. It quickly turned a little bit indolic on my mother, so the jasmine and the tuberose had a little bit of a funk, which she said smelled poopy to her. She didn't like it. She's not a fan of white florals. She doesn't like tuberose or jasmine because of the indoles. She said that this smelled poopy to her, so she wasn't a fan. As it dried down, she liked it more. For me, I didn't find it particularly overly indolic. It didn't go poopy on my skin, so skin chemistry dependent. But there is something in it that's maybe a little bit odd, but like it didn't, like I say, it doesn't go poopy on me, but I got something that my mind went to more kind of the fermented lager honey thing, which was interesting. I don't know if other people get that vibe, or if my mind is accurate in that kind of way of describing it, but that's kind of what I got from it. And yeah, I don't mind it. I wouldn't wear it myself, given the choice. I think it's unisex, maybe leaning a little bit on the feminine, given like a tilt, so to speak. In terms of performance, it did feel like it sat closer to my skin in terms of sillage and projection. It did feel a little bit more intimate, and it was kind of gone in around 5 hours. I would mark the longevity of this one at 5 hours before you would kind of probably want to reapply. With florals, because this obviously uses natural florals in this fragrance, they are a chameleon on different people's skin, so this is definitely not blind buy safe. You need to test it on your skin. It will smell different on different people. What I get isn't necessarily what you will get, so definitely try a sample first. I would say you would need to be a fan of the white florals to enjoy this one. They're not my personal favorite, so to speak, so I didn't gravitate towards this one personally. However, if you like tuberose, jasmine, more of the white floral, and then you might really like this one. It's not my personal taste, but I appreciate it. I'm glad I got a sniff of it. I think the bottle is gorgeous. I would put it as a spring and autumn fragrance for the daytime, casual or dressed up. If you went a little bit lighter on the trigger, I think it would be safe to work. So I think fairly versatile. And it's just really how this works on your skin chemistry, whether or not those indoles come out more or less on you. That's really like a personal skin chemistry thing, so do test a sample first. That's it. Hope you enjoyed the review. If you have tried it, let people know what you think in the comments below. If you tried it and you get the lager kind of honey thing that I'm trying to describe, let me know if you understand what I'm saying there. I'll see you soon with another video. Take care, everyone. Bye.
One time he disappeared for 2 or 3 days. When he came back, they asked him where he'd been, and he said, "Oh, just sailing."